With so many new game engines becoming accessible to the masses, a lot of new developers have appeared over the last couple of years. The appearance of Greenlight and the possibility of getting it onto Steam with as little as $100 and the ability to self-promote attracted a lot of newcomers as well. It might have led to quite a few games that we never would have had access to in the past, but also mountains of terrible games cobbled up together with pre-made assets, trying to separate folks from their hard-earned money by providing a product made with as little time and resources as possible. Every once in a while, one of these developers will try to excuse their shoddy products by saying that they are a one-person team, but there already are quite a few games made this way that are good. It's pretty rare to find someone that is adept at both the technical side of making video games, as well as having the creativity to come up with all the hard asset. Dust: An Elysian Tale is a good example of this, with its beautiful art style and fast-paced combat, but it's not the only one. Banished is a city builder made by the one-person developer called Shining Rock Software. Unlike most in the genre, survival is not guaranteed. In fact, it will probably be elusive during the first attempts. As the title implies, your citizens were banished from wherever they came from and must now build themselves a new home in an uncompromising climate. You must ensure your citizens have enough food, shelter, firewood, and coats to keep themselves warm, otherwise they won't survive the harsh winter. Humans aren't the antagonist in this game, it's the climate that is. You spend most of your time overlooking your workers, setting buildings for construction, or selecting areas for your laborers to clear, and moving your adult population to different jobs depending on the time of year, and to refill stock as they are getting low. The game provides lots of tooltips, and allows you to sticky them wherever you want on the screen. So you always know how things are going around your village, and you can tweak things around whenever you want, with a simple click. You'll be fast-forwarding time until you need to move things around again. The game provides you with guidelines as to how many people you need to be the most efficient depending on the number of building of each type you've got, but you are free to completely ignore them if you wish. It gives you a lot of flexibility. If your workers can't do the job assigned to them because of the season, like for farmers, or if they have produced the maximum amount of resources you set, they will act as laborers until they can go back to their own jobs. Laborer is the most basic jobs. They are the one who clear land, and they will also be the ones who move resources around town. They will get materials to construction sites and pick up resources left behind by other workers. The years are split into seasons, and agriculture only takes place during the warmer months. In early spring, your farmers will plant seeds in the field and trees and orchards. They will take care of them until fall, and then they will stop harvesting them as fast as they can before the freezing temperature destroys them. Agriculture isn't the only way to get food, though. You can forage food from the forest like berries and mushrooms with a gatherer's hut. Fishing is also an option if there's a river or lake nearby, although rivers generally aren't worth the hassle, since the amount of fish they manage to catch every year is determined by the amount of water covered by the radius when building the fishing dock. It means that proper placement can easily double the production of that building. You can also hunt the local deer population for food and leather. The deer hides are crucial to make warm clothing for winter at the beginning of the game, but comparatively, hunting doesn't provide as much food as other ways, because your hunters wait 2 months after each catch in order to prevent the extinction of the local deer population. You can also acquire livestock like cows, sheep, and chickens. They can only be acquired through trading, and they are extremely expensive, although you only need a couple of ones to get the reproduction started and build your herd from there. They all provide you with meats if you kill them, but chickens also get you eggs over time. You'll get wool from sheep, and cows also get you leather when you kill them. There are about 30 different kinds of food in the game, and there's a good reason for it. Variety is crucial to keep everyone healthy. Having lots of one crop is much better than starving, but it is detrimental in the long term. You can get new types of seeds by bartering with a wandering merchant once you've built a trader's post, and it's also through them that you'll gain access to livestock. Both are really costly, but you only have to buy them once. Once you've acquired them, seeds can be used indefinitely, and as long as you take good care of them, livestock will reproduce faster than they die. Foraging from the forest is the most dependable at the beginning, since not only does it give more food than any other method for the number of people assigned to it, it also provides a good variety of food, unlike fields and orchards. It's not without drawbacks though. It cannot be upscaled as easily as crops and fields. The harvester's hut needs to be surrounded by a lot of mature trees, and two buildings cannot overlap, otherwise they will lose a lot of their effectiveness. Generally, that means those buildings will be far from your town center, which can be problematic in the winter, when transporting goods can be difficult with the cold. As your population grows, you'll have to rely more and more on agriculture to get the food you need. They take a whole lot less space than any other method, and can be built right in the middle of your town. The weather affects it far more than any other method. The temperature will dictate how much food you get at the end of the year. Aside from the climate over which you have no power, the only thing you have to worry about is keeping your fields spaced out to prevent the spread of infestations. Otherwise, they could decimate all your fields. Getting a grasp of how to produce enough food every year is the first hurdle to go through in the game in order to get your little village to survive. It's not all your villagers need to survive. They also need a roof over their head during the colder months, and firewood to keep it heated. Coal can be used as an alternative to firewood, but it's harder to get, and it's best used to make steel tools. Life doesn't end in winter, and your villagers will have to step outside during even the coldest of days, so you'll have to make sure they have warm clothing. As mentioned previously, they're made mostly from leather, or wool, or both of them for an even better outfit. The more time they spend outside and the colder it is, the faster they get cold and stop whatever they are doing and return to the warmth of their home. It makes efficient planning of your village all the more important, since workers who have to travel long distances to reach their destination might turn back before they even reach it on very cold days, which can cripple your production and put the future of your town in jeopardy. While it isn't directly essential to survival, most of your workers will need tools to do their job well. Tools don't last forever though, and you'll need to make more as the time goes by. Tools aren't needed to complete a job, but work is far less efficient without them. A blacksmith is needed to make them, and it's possible to make even better ones that last twice as long provided you have the coal to spare. The well-being of your villagers is measured by their health and happiness. Their health will lower when any of the previously mentioned needs aren't met, until they eventually die or are restored back to health with medicinal herbs that can be harvested in the woods by herbalists. They can also catch contagious diseases, in which case you need to have doctors and a hospital to treat them effectively. It's really important to isolate the sick quickly, because an epidemic can overwhelm your doctors and cause large amounts of casualties or simply greatly lower production depending on the disease in question. Happiness is easier to manage. Villagers that are well taken care of will generally stay happy constantly, and you won't have to pay much attention to it. Other than that, people's happiness can be influenced by their own family life. Births and marriages will make them happy, but they will get sad when their loved ones die, especially if there's no cemetery to bury them. As their happiness lowers, so does productivity, since a sad villager will often stay idle and not get any work done. There are many ways to raise happiness. Building a cemetery is an easy way to do so, as long as they don't get full. They can also find solace in religion once you've built a church, or through booze by making alcohol. Unlike most city builders, you can't rely on immigration to grow your city. The colony grows as your citizens reproduce in between themselves, and their children will grow up and do the same. Once they reach 10 years old, they become part of your worker population. You can opt to send them to school, which will take an additional 7 years to graduate, but will increase their productivity for the rest of their life. Young people do not reproduce as long as they live with their parents, so you'll need to build new homes for them. Oddly enough, there's a disparity between how quickly villagers age and how many years in terms of seasons pass. In just 10 years based on seasons, a whole generation of people will go from childhood to old age. There are quite a few quirks to managing the growth of your population. People will move into new houses even if that means they will break up their couple, which means they won't make babies since they only do so when both parents live together. Not being aware of this and building too many houses can destroy the growth of your population and cripple the next generation once the current one dies off and there's no one else to replace them. Your citizen will also hoard loads of resources in their homes, far more than they need on a regular basis, which means that if you are struggling to make ends meet, you might have a very real problem of distribution where the houses close to the storage or market will be overloaded with food and firewood, while those farther away will be starving or freezing to death. Every couple of years, provided you have built a town hall, some nomads will seek to join your town, which can be great to give a boost to your population, but they are uneducated, often carry diseases, and if your town is in a precarious situation already, adding dozens of new settlers can quickly dry up what little resources you had left, and building lots of new shelter before the next winter comes can be quite challenging at times. At the start of a new colony, there's a whole lot of material scattered in the undisturbed wilderness. There are dense forests everywhere you can cut down to get wood for construction and to make firewood. There are large rocks used mostly for construction, and iron that is useful to make tools and is also required for most advanced buildings. Trees do grow back over time, but minerals obviously don't. As the game progresses, you'll have to either travel farther to get more of them in the overworld, or invest in large structures that can provide much greater quantities of the metals at the cost of being much slower, requiring more people to be effective, and also putting your men and women at risk, since dying while mining in quarries and mines is not all that uncommon. At some point you have no choice but to use them to maintain a constant growth, because construction quickly drains your stock and you need the same materials to fulfill your basic needs at the same time too. Traveling half the map just to get to a few rocks isn't reasonable, nor is it effective. There is a bit of a formula for success that you eventually figure out through trial and error, but I would advise against looking it up for your first experience, since it is what makes the game most compelling. I will only skim over it because of that. You have to prioritize shelter, firewood, and food during the first year, and start production of tools and coats during the next one to stand a chance. After that, you have to build a school to start your education and build an additional house or two per year. Once you reach the 10-year mark, you'll be getting near the end of the first generation of settlers. You'll lose a lot of population, and it can cause your town to stagnate for years if the villagers didn't make enough children since the start. And it also brings another problem mentioned earlier. As they die, the homes will be moved into immediately, which can break families apart and stop the couples from making more children, so you might have to destroy homes to get the villagers back into their relationship. Once you are past that hurdle and your city is still growing, there are no more challenges that awaits you, aside from potential disasters such as fires and tornadoes that can happen randomly, or self-imposed one like the influx of nomads. Herein lies the biggest problem of the game. Once you've grasped the basics of starting the village, there's no challenge left to be found in the game. Managing a city of 100 is just as easily as one of 900, and neither require your supervision, so all you do from that point on is set a couple of buildings for construction and wait for them to finish and repeat that cycle endlessly. There are no real tiers to buildings, nothing to research or policies to adopt, and a big lack of progression. Having a city that spans the entire map is just a matter of constructing the same 20 or so buildings dozens and dozens of times. It seriously hurts the replayability of the game and makes it boring once your city is completely self-sufficient. There are mods that help improve on this. While there are tons of them that simply focus on making the game easier for those still struggling, there are quite a few that add buildings, seed types, etc. There is one in particular that overhauls the game and prolongs the life of Banished, called Colonial Charter. It changes the setting and adds lots of buildings, crops, livestock, and much more. Banished is a good game that unfortunately has little replay value outside of mods. It can keep you busy for 15 to 30 hours by itself, but it's not one of those games you are likely to get back to every couple of months, although mods can add a lot to it if you are so inclined. The price might have been a bit steep, for me at least, when it first came out, but now that it's often on sale for $5, you could do a lot worse with your money. Thank you for watching this second video. I think I'm getting a bit better with the microphone. It's still a bit off, but not quite as robotic. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you want some more, you can subscribe and comment below if you have got feedback from me.